It's a stool Sunday this week because one of the greatest gifts of this community and community is circling round together, right? For our own growth and liberation and freedom and for that of one another. For those of you who've been around for a while or a couple months, you know that we have been receiving a lot of information recently about ways we might orient to our current moment and our current times. And we also believe that there are times to act, to reflect, to learn, and to act again. A cycle of action in community, both within these walls and outside of them. A time to reflect on those actions and a time to learn perhaps some new or re-remembered framing that might help us, that might be anchors for us in our world. And so today, we're going to take a moment and do a little reflection together. Reflection about what has been anchoring us these past couple of months. It might have been things we've talked about here. It might have been things you've drawn from other communities, from what you've been reading, or from your own practices. I'm then going to talk just a little bit about part of what this current moment is asking of us and some of the roles that we are being asked to fill and what we can do together to ensure that we fill these roles well. First, we're going to do a little reflection. So what I'm going to try will give everyone a moment to think about what have been your anchors in these past couple of months. It might be some words that have helped you frame. It might be an action that you've been doing that's helpful. It might be an activity you've been involved in that's helpful. We'll take a couple moments to think about those, and then I'll go around the room and we'll ask you to very pithily share what an anchor has been for you, and I'll repeat it back so that folks can hear you on your microphone. So if you, like me, are an external processor, can take a moment to think about what you want to say now so that you can have a little digestible tidbit that I will be able to repeat back so that everyone can hear it. Folks online, you can do the same and think about what your anchors have been and then write them in the chat. I'll take a couple from in here and then I'll ask our tech folks to shout out a couple that I'll repeat. Okay, we're taking a couple moments and thinking about what have been the helpful anchors for us in these past couple of months. All right, who wants to start us off?
For me, it's music and the beauty of nature.
Music and the beauty of nature.
Don't watch the news. This too will pass. It will be all right.
Don't watch the news. This too shall pass. It will be all right. Okay, hold on. We're going to go back and then up and then back there.
Managing aspirations/obsessions.
Managing aspirations/obsessions. Yes.
I've been very focused on ensuring that all of my purchases reflect my values.
Focusing on purchases reflecting values, and I also heard a focus on things we can control. Yes.
The phrase you said, "My neighbor is not my enemy."
The phrase, "My neighbor is not my enemy."
Arts and ideas like music and lectures.
Arts and ideas like music and lectures.
Yeah, anger takes a lot of energy, and I try to focus on what can I do with that energy
Anger,
in a positive way.
anger takes a lot of energy, so trying to focus on how my energy can move towards positive things, is that? Okay. Oh my gosh, so many. Okay, we're gonna go back, 1, 2, and then 3.
Just the realization that many cultures live the way that we're moving, and that mothers and children have to live and grow up, and they tolerate this, or they learn how to adapt, and I feel like I'm beginning to share that experience with other people.
The realization that there are a lot of other countries that have perhaps been living in similarly volatile times, and like taking that perspective, is that, and a broadening perspective, is that?
Well, it's just realizing that that many other, especially women and children, have to live through
Right.
this, and we will also.
Right, realizing that many other women and children, and I'm sorry, I said countries, but you said cultures. So maybe also communities within the United States that have always lived with uncertainty and fear. Yeah, and there was someone in the middle-ish, yes. Mm-hmm.
First is who you are. It's safe time for the election, and this has been great. My biggest thing on a daily basis is my garden. I go there for peace, but I go there when I'm upset or frustrated, and that helps me release a lot of what's going on.
Being here, also being in the garden, finding release. We're gonna go back here, then we'll go online, and then we'll go over here. Okay. Stevie Wonder, hallelujah. Okay, do we have a couple, any folks online?
We do. Jennifer Haven shares, Ellen Ramage, this congregation and my friends. John Curran, family has been his anchor. Leanne McRae, writing, connecting with others, bird watching. Caroline Davenport Ursoff, receiving and giving support from friends and family. Edward Robson, walking everywhere. Jenny Davis, nature, small group, meditation, feeling safe in this fellowship, connecting with the persistence of ancestors.
Amazing. I'll pause you there, and if there are more after, we'll come. Yep, here and then over there.
Grateful to be in the United States because when I was 17, I saw on campus where the soldiers went to campus and killed my best friend in front of me. Started walking the monkey about it, seeing the friends on the floor being shot. And just being here, even though we think it's bad, but it's still better.
So Winnie shared, I'm gonna try and repeat for folks who need, that grateful to be in the United States, and reflected on an experience when you were a teenager of seeing your best friend shot, and just that horror, and an acknowledgement that things are still more stable here than they were where you were when you were a teenager.
Be kind to yourself and be kind to others.
Be kind to yourself and be kind to others. Good versus evil, all things work together for good. Amen. Okay, we've got. Getting rid of the evil, replacing it with the good. All right, we had 2 here, and then I saw 1 back here. Nature and justice activities.
Actually choosing what broadcasters to listen to that can tell me what to do.
Choosing what broadcasters to listen, and folks who can inform you about how to be a part of the change and the good.
Exercise in nature and gardening the food that I'm going to eat all summer long.
Work, exercise in nature, and gardening the food we're gonna eat. Okay, do we have a couple more burning? I see this one, I see that one. I've ignored the sides of the room. Have you all had your hands up and I've been ignoring you over here? Okay, we'll do back here, up here, and then over there.
Hugs and gratitude.
Hugs and gratitude. Yes, physical touch can be so grounding when it's consensual and wanted. Yes. Dogs. Yes, dogs.
When I'm reading the morning newspaper, I pick out an item or two that pleases me or angers me, and in a few minutes I can fire off a letter, for what it's worth, Senators Tillis and Burr, and let them know how I feel.
When reading the news, find something that is pleasing and upsetting and write a letter to our representatives in reflection to those things that you're pleased about and upset about. Okay, I think I had one more here and then one over there. Is there someone? No? Okay.
Painting with friends.
Painting with friends. Yes. One of the mantras we've had here, it's not really a mantra, one of the things I've been saying and keep saying a lot is that we don't want to spend more time or energy consuming information about the world than we are co-creating it. Being mindful of that balance, because we do not want to feel totally powerless, because we're not. There are some things that, granted, we probably can't do a whole ton about, but there's a whole lot that we can be doing and changing. And we want to be sure that we are putting as much of our time and energy about co-creating the world that we long for and that everyone deserves as we are consuming information. So, thank you all for these reflections. Part of why we wanted to share some of them at this time is that, in particular, as time goes along and we age, and also as we're in very difficult times, some of us might have found that the activities, the spiritual practices that we have that keep us grounded and centered, aren't really holding up right now, And that happens. So part of the beauty of being in community and sharing what have been anchors for us is that we might hear something that works for us, but if we don't, it might just get our imagination going around what's an activity or a framing or a practice that might be grounding and helpful for me that I've not done before or that I've not done for decades. So I hope that we can all leave today and think about something that we might want to add to our own toolkit of how we are finding grounding and love and centering in these times. So the other part of how we do that, as we've been talking about here, is taking some action. And as a community, part of our work is to discern, what are we uniquely positioned to do that perhaps other congregations are less capable of doing? And one of the roles that we've been filling recently is hosting peer support groups for trans and non-binary folks that a community group hosts, but are happening here in our fellowship. Now, that's a role that we can uniquely play because congregations are safer than other community centers. We actually just have more protections about who's allowed to come in here as in terms of potential governmental or law enforcement authorities. We have more capacity to tell people hey, this is actually a private worship space and you can't come in here, that community centers don't necessarily have. So we offer a safe space that others have a harder time doing that. And because we're kind of, a different kind of worshiping community than other churches, folks who have religious trauma, which are a lot of folks in the LGBTQ community, feel a little more safe coming here than they might in other churches. So that's part of why it makes sense for us to be the congregation who are hosting this group. I'll say really beautifully that other progressive churches and synagogues in town, their clergy have been hey, we know that you all are hosting. Do you need support? Are there ways that we can be supporting these groups, which is really, really, really beautiful. So there is a whole community around us and among us. And part of this means that it's our work to be sure that folks who are coming for groups, and if they might come to a social gathering or a Sunday worship, are feeling like really welcome and supported here, because that's part of what we want to do. So we have 2 things that are going to be coming next Sunday when you are driving into the fellowship, or if you're online and you decide to like come by after dropping off your mail someday. As you enter into our driveway, and as the driveway opens up to our parking lot, we'll have a couple of really lovely like tall feather banners. You all know the ones I'm talking about? They're kind of like the tall skinny ones that will have like rainbow flags and pink, white, and blue for trans flags, and brown and black. Very just like everyone, all y'all are welcome here, flags that are both to indicate to other folks that like we're a space for you. And it's also to remind all of us that that's part of who we are and what we do here, right? And for some of us who just like have different levels of privilege and have lived in different ways, that's just a helpful reminder to be like, oh yeah, here I am being welcoming. The other thing that you might have noticed if you used the restroom this morning is we have little signs in our bathroom that say, we trust that the person using this restroom is choosing the restroom that they need to use. And also if you have concerns, you can talk to a member of staff directly about this. So that's just a reminder that sometimes like the gender that someone, that we might assume someone is might not actually be their gender. And like, we don't need to ask someone about that in the bathroom. We just trust that they're using the bathroom that we want. Or like maybe someone's having a bathroom emergency and they're like, I would hope, please, like if you're having a bathroom emergency, please like enter into the bathroom that is closest to you, right? No, like, yeah, I have a toddler. This is real. We will, okay. So those are just like 2 things that are happening because we know the little things are the big things. Right? And one of the moments that we're meeting is how we can be more supportive and inclusive to folks in the LGBT community who are already here and have already been here and will be here for a while. So that's like my conversational update for you all about one of the ways this community together is meeting the moment and how it takes all of us truly to do that and do it well and fully. So thank you all for being a part of this. And if you want to talk more about this, you can talk to me or Karen or Pam, find one of us, send us an email, ask for a time to meet. Okay, my reminder that we've already talked about is do not spend more time or energy consuming information about the world than you are co-creating it. We have so many beautiful opportunities. You heard about some of them from Dawn, about how to be involved and be engaged. We're going to continue to work more deeply with our community partners, both like PeaceWorks Medical, who's having the peer support groups for trans and non-binary folks here, as well as UU Justice North Carolina. You heard from Reverend Lisa about how we can be taking tangible actions every week to be working and making our world more of what we longed it to be. So thank you all for being a part of that.